Could you imagine lifting an elephant? Just couldn't do it, could you? Could you imagine pulling a load bigger than the biggest horse could pull? Couldn't do it, could you? Well, that's what these little wise critters do. They can pull something 30 times bigger than themselves, and they can lift more than 50 times their own weight. In fact, somebody estimated that if you gathered all these little wise fellows together and you weighed them all, they would weigh more than all the people in the world. So all these little wise creatures would weigh more than all the people in the world. I think they might be wiser than some of us. That's why the Bible says, go to them and learn wisdom from them. Anybody have an idea what I'm talking about? Ants, that's right. Most of us see an ant crawling across the floor and like, I don't like you there. Well, they were in the wrong place at the wrong time, right? But these little creatures are very creative. In fact, if they can't reach something, they just help each other out and they make their very own ladder. So they attach themselves to each other and others can climb up on them, on their buddies that made the ladder for them. Well, if they need to get across the river, no problem for the little ants. A bunch of their little fellows come along and say, we'll make a raft, and the rest of you little fellows get on and take a ride, and we'll just all get across the river. They are very creative and very resourceful. Some of them get themselves really organized into herding livestock. Well, not the livestock you're thinking about. Not cows or horses or sheep or goats. No, they herd aphids. And they take care of the aphids and they protect the aphids, and then they take their little antennae and they tap the aphids and said, it's time for you to pay us for all the work we're doing and taking care of you. So give us some of your nectar, some of your honeydew to eat. And the little aphids give the ants some honeydew, and all the ants are so happy because it tastes so good. They carry the honey back to their nests to feed all the other hungry ants. Well, while the ants are tending their flock, sometimes they decide that, you know what, these aphids need better pastures. So they load up the aphids and they take them to greener plants and lusher plants, and probably the plants you didn't want the aphids to eat. And Mr. Ladybug comes along and says, I'm hungry. Some aphids would taste really good. But when that mob of ants comes after the ladybugs, no chance of getting those aphids because the ants are defending the aphids. Well, wintertime's coming on. The plants are going to freeze. The aphids are going to die. What's going to happen to the ants? No problem. In wisdom, God has taught them just what to do. Gather up the aphid eggs, take them home, hide them away deep down in the earth, in your ant house. Next spring, you'll have your whole new herd of aphids to hatch. No wonder we can't get rid of aphids, right? Well, some ants aren't livestock keepers. They're not farmers in that sense, but they're farmers who tend to plants. They grow things. So down in South America and Central America, there's leafcutter ants, and they go out and with their strong jaws, they chew off the leaves and they cut them up into little bits, and leaf carriers come along and they carry the little bits of leaves home down deep in the earth. And down there, they farm fungus. And their fungus gardens grow really good on the leaves. They don't eat the leaves. They use the leaves to build the compost that grows their fungus that they like to eat. And these little gardener ants are so wise. They know just what to do and how to do it, and they work really hard all the time. I wonder if these are just some of the reasons why the wisest man who ever lived wrote in the Bible. King Solomon wrote, "Go to the ant, thou sluggard." You're never sluggish, are you? You never stand around when there's a job to do you? Well, I hope not. We want to become more like ants. Consider her ways and be wise. There are a lot of things we can learn from the ants. Diligence. Never saying, "I can't. It's too hard. It just can't be done." Because wisdom, taken from above, wisdom from God says, you can do all things. You can do the impossible with me. That's what the ants do. They carry elephants. They pull heavier loads than the strongest horse. And with God, you can have that kind of wisdom that nothing can penetrate and nothing is too hard. So let's consider the ants a little bit more and get more wisdom from their ways. You can go back.